sufficient, aren't we? Which is good. Hello. Can you give us a thumbs up or a wave if you can, or a reaction if you can see us? We've got a hand up. We've got thumbs up. Perfect.
Oh,
super duper. So we can't see people and we can't hear people. So please feel free to put any questions in the chat with anything admin-y or as we go along. That's fine. We'll start at 12 o'clock.
Or even say who you are and where you're calling or where you're dialing in from. That would be great. I want to see if we have anybody outside the UK.
Do you want me to look at the settings to allow the mics and cameras?
If people are happy to use the chat, then we're good. There we go. Somebody in the middle of us there. So we've got the UK and South Africa.
Natalie's my colleague from South Africa, so I'm really glad she's joined. Hi, Nat.
Brilliant.
Natalie is an example of how ISO can draw you together as a community, because she needed some help. Like 4 years ago, I think, when I first joined Otis, and I've been in touch with her ever since. So it's amazing things you can collaborate on in quality.
Anybody else want to share where they're from? It's okay if it's in the UK, you can do. There we go. Whereabouts? Anywhere? Oh, this is.
Thank you, Natalie. I can't.
She always is, Natalie, isn't she? Yeah.
She's
a good egg. Barbados, you said, the centre of the world.
Derby.
Yeah.
I remember Derby.
Sutton in Ashfield. Oh, yeah, not too far away. So I'm currently sat in Newark, if that helps anybody near Nottingham, but work in Derby, so we're all good. So we've got a nucleus and then a big bit. So is that Nottingham Trent Uni? Is that a student from NTU? No. Abigail's in sunny Dubai. It is not sunny in Newark. It is not sunny in Newark.
The flame is no lie. 42 today. Just a bit chilly.
42. I think we'll be lucky if we're at 4.2. With my highly calibrated iPhone, it says it's 16.
My colleague was in Oman, so not far from Dubai. Over the weekend, she said it hit 50. So,
yeah, your outside temperature is warmer than my hot tub. Excuse me.
Same. How are you? Same's in Abu Dhabi.
Okay. They're saying you need to write in the chat. If you're chatting away to us, then we can't hear you because of the muted participant. So you're going to have to type away.
And he is.
Super Sam from the committee.
Excellent.
Super duper. We normally start these things straight away, Lisa. Should we get straight into it?
Yeah. So
fabulous. Yeah, and then if we finish before, then we don't. So hi Sam. Yeah, everybody's muted, so we're just going to use the chat function. So you just get the joy of listening to me and Abigail and Lisa when she tells us that we're doing something functionally incorrect as we're going through stuff. So thanks ever so much for joining us this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world. It's really great to have you with us. We're going to talk through leadership in the CQI profession map. There's myself and Abigail. We're going to do a presentation for about 45 minutes, and then there'll be some questions, open up to questions, put them in the chat. We'll answer them at the end, and if there's anything really poignant that either of us picks up when the other one's presenting. And then we aim to close about 1 o'clock. So those of you that have got a 2-hour session booked in your diary, the good news is you get an hour back from us, because it is only an hour's session. So yeah, we are recording the event. It did start straight away, so there's going to be some editing skills for the CQI team when we get there. Otherwise, they're going to have us talking about hot tubs and Barbados. Yeah, use the chat and we'll cover the questions as we go through. Sit back, get involved. So feel free. No questions are off limits for either of us on any topics, particularly around the CQI stuff, which is great. And this presentation will be on the website, and I think it's circulated to known participants after the event as well, once it's gone through the editing process. So buckle up and enjoy. So I'm really pleased to host this as part of a branch event for the Derby and Notts CQI branch, and absolutely fantastic to have Abigail with us today from Otis. So we worked together in a previous life at Rolls-Royce, and Abigail escaped and went off to do something far more exciting in a far warmer climate. So she's worked out well. So Abigail's the senior manager for quality performance and compliance for the EMEA region, which is a mouthful for somebody like me. And then you've got myself, Sarah Gould, who is head of lean improvement at Civil Aerospace aftermarket ops in Rolls-Royce. So aeroplane engines, not cars, for anybody that's confused between the two. And it happens more often than you would imagine. So we're pleased that you've managed to join us today, and we've done a lot of collaborating to make sure that we've got different viewpoints from different industries and a quality bias and an improvement bias in the things that we're going to be talking around. So just for reference, this is around the profession map. You can find the profession network map on www.quality.org, part of the CQI information. So please go and have a nosy at it and go and see where you can find some more information. Excuse me. Oh, sorry, I've changed to the notes bit there, haven't I? Which is not very helpful. There we go. Okay, so today we're going to be focused on the leadership element. The Derby and Notts branch have already done something around governance, assurance and improvement. There's one pending for context, so keep an eye out on that. So you can have a look on the website. The recordings of the sessions are already there. So today we're really focusing on the leadership element of that. And the key kind of tagline on the profession map is about an individual that uses leadership behaviours to maximise influence and develop a culture of evaluation and improvement. And the area is broken up into 4 main sections, which is about being the quality conscience. It's about demonstrating a quality approach, working as a quality facilitator and then acting as a quality role model. So what we're going to do is both of us have got an insight to each of those 4 sections. So we'll take you through those, and then we'll get some questions at the end. So for me, really, being the quality conscience is around the fact that the customer absolutely defines value. So they will determine what they are and what they are not willing to pay for. So that's where you've got to really look at what's adding value. Think about it as, what would you, if you were the customer of something, what would you be prepared to pay for? And one of the key things that we look about there is, how do we remove waste from our processes to make sure that we're increasing our value added ratio? So you will all know and love, hopefully, the Tim P. Wood acronym, and it's really bugging me, but it's done on purpose, that the box around the D is blue, not red, to match in with the rest of the stuff. But it's done deliberately as a defect, but it's been irking me for about 6 weeks now as we've been doing the presentation. So actually, it makes no difference. That defect there makes no difference to the value potentially of the presentation, unless you've got a bit of OCD like me and you're going, my eyes are drawn to that rather than drawn to the things that are going on in the conversation. So be really mindful of, who is it that you're giving information to? How do they want to receive it? What are their key care points? Is it on-time delivery? Is it quality? Should it be both? Absolutely. Does the quality enable the on-time delivery? Absolutely. So how do you make sure that you as an individual bring that quality conscience within your business? And as you develop through your career and develop as an individual, your sphere of influence becomes bigger. So how do you make sure that you're looking at your customers and making sure that you're adding value for them? And then how do you broaden that out to your team, as a, how is your team adding value to their customers? And then into maybe your area or your department. And then you, as you start to build your area of influence, you might be looking at completely about the company stuff. So don't try and fix the whole thing for your company to start off with. But if you start with that integrity piece of, how do I make sure I understand who my customers are, who my suppliers are, and I'm giving them a good pass, and I've got that real drive into making sure that I'm only doing value added activity, that's really a great starting place. And all of those things will change as you go throughout your career. Your team will get bigger and your sphere of influence will get bigger, but really drive to, what does the customer really want, and have that in the heart of everything that you think about. Okay. Has the slide moved on?
It has, don't worry. So you will notice, especially if you're a bit OCD like Sarah and I are, that her visuals are much better than mine. And that comes, I guess, in fact, I don't know how that comes, considering I've been using a computer since they first came out, and Sarah has not, but I will be getting a copy of her slides afterwards. Anyway, quality conscience. And I think it's interesting that Sarah and I come at this from different sides, which is why you've got 2 slides on each element. So what do we mean by a quality conscience? I looked it up in the dictionary. Conscience is an inner feeling or a voice viewed as a guide to the rightness or wrongness of one's behavior. And if you think about our industry's safety culture, and we are from different industries, but I think the safety culture is just as mature in both. Everyone knows it's kind of just the way you do things. It's a sense of doing it right, even when no one's looking. It should be the same with quality. I don't think it is. I just don't think quality is at the same level of maturity yet. So I just decided to do a bit of research and not go on gut feel. If you put stop work authority into Google, even if you add the word quality, I guarantee only safety will come up, hence my little visuals there. So along with my experience, that kind of tells me that our quality culture has got some way to go before it's as mature as the safety culture, and before it becomes second nature in the same way that safety is when we're at work. So for me, quality is about doing things right first time, every time, even when no one is looking. And if you think about safety, that's what we're naturally doing at work. And we need to make sure that quality gets to that same level of consciousness. as quality professionals, it's our job really to make things easy for our colleagues to comply, reminding them that what we do to satisfy or even delight our customers, that's the aim for us. To you, Sarah. You're on mute.
Take myself off mute. There we go. Fabulous. Right, first time. It's in there somewhere, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So demonstrating a quality approach. For me, this is really talking about thinking about the whole value stream, and you'll hear people talk about enterprise solutions or end-to-end processes or value stream. They're kind of the same thing. This is the end-to-end process from when a customer says, oh, I'll have one of those, to when we've actually delivered whatever it is, the product, the service, the experience to that customer. But what we've got to do is make sure that we understand all of it and understand the value add in each of those steps. So we'll talk about doing value stream mapping and etc. How many people have you got? How many machines have you got? Etc. But we really need to make sure that one of the attributes that we're capturing in our data box is quality performance. And if you do nothing else, then go and find that data out. If you haven't got it, go and find it out. It's really important to understand what's your right first time performance, what's your satisfaction in terms of being a customer, being an effective customer from the process or the individual before. How many times do we go, oh, they've spelt that wrong again, I'll just go and correct it, or that colour's not quite right, or that slide's not quite right, or actually they put them all upside down and I need them to load into the machine to be the right way around, but I'll just get on and do it. Whenever you're correcting things, you're not adding value, you're doing rework. So really be clear on what is it what your expectations are from a right first time perspective, and also then what your customers' expectations are, and get the data right. You can only really get the real value stream thinking is if you're thinking across the whole bit, and then things go right. Don't pass a defect forward. Make sure that you're always doing that and thinking about it from a systemic point of view. And the other part of that is where it's building in quality. And it's really important that we think about that across the whole of the value chain, not just the product, but also the data and information flow as we go through. So the best thing that you can do is do error proofing or pokey-okey. Make sure that the individual can only do the task that they need to do the right way. And then that helps them with the quality conscience, because there's only one way of being able to do it. And people can only do it the right way every time. Yeah. But that's not always practicable. You can't always error proof everything. Okay. So then if you can't error proof it, what you need is a really good measurement system and data capture system. How do I know that things are going how they're meant to be? What are the control limits? What can the machine insights can it give me? What insights can an individual get me? How can I make sure that I'm collecting quality information? Because once you've got quality information, that really helps data-driven decisions. So Abigail mentioned earlier about acting on data, not gut feel. If you're really lucky throughout your career, your gut feel will be right all of the time. The chances are it isn't. It might not be far off, but roughly right and exactly wrong sometimes isn't okay. What we need to be is completely accurate. So make sure that you've got the data to enable high-powered and conversations and data-driven decisions. That then gives you an ability to help with the accountability. So take accountability for making data-driven decisions through the implementation of a measurement system in the absence of error proofing. So it's making sure that you are acting as the quality conscience and driving a quality approach through having really accurate data and enabling us to create a really good way of doing things. Okay. So you've got a really good real life example of building in quality.
This is definitely a good example, and it follows on very nicely from what you've just said. Anyone would think we have planned this. So if we've said that data is really imperative for us to be able to improve, then if you have any kind of checks, whether they're at the end of the process or as you go through the process, through the life cycle, if they're in paper form, it's really difficult to get good data from that, especially if you have a split like we do in our company of people in office and people in the field, and trying to get those checks in, to put them into some kind of software to measure, nigh on impossible. So in order to help colleagues to do things right first time, using digital process checks are probably the best. We took some of our paper process checks that were supposed to be completed on site. You could tell that maybe sometimes they were not. And as I've said before, this is about making it easy for our colleagues to comply. Don't make it easy for them to fail. We need to set them up to succeed. So we've changed most of our checks from paper to digital so that we can help our colleagues use digital approaches. They're usually on a phone app. And then when we set the questions, again, we set them up to succeed. Most of our checks they're either yes or no, they're either right or they're wrong. If you have an NA, not applicable, then it's highly likely people would check that box. Our NAs only apply to product specific types. So most of these things in our checks, you have to get them all right before you can pass them forward. And that goes back to this error proofing or poka-yoke that Sarah mentioned. So, and also, if you make your checklist, depending on what it is, for ours, it's product, we require photo or video evidence, videos for sound for each of the items. So that ensures that the checklist, generally, if it's done well, there are no errors. There might be some no's, people have to go back and fix something, but what we're trying to do is prevent those errors being passed forward to the next people in line. And in our business, those next people in line are a different part of our business, so they're internal customers, but ultimately it's the external customer that will benefit from really good in-process checks that are done in such a way that it's very, very difficult or impossible to do those checks wrong. I always say these are a bit like Monopoly. You can't pass go until everything's complete. You can't collect your £200. When everything is correct and then is passed forward, it enables that next team to pick up where you've left off, and they haven't got to go back and check anything. They haven't got to be tempted to correct it themselves. So as I've said, it's really good for your internal customers and your value stream. Excellent for the end customer that gets the final benefit. So again, it's really about, I keep saying the same things. Doing things right first time is about us as quality professionals making our processes easy to comply to. So for me, that demonstrates that quality professionals are there to help, not to hinder. If our colleagues view us in that way, then they will be more likely to come to us when they foresee an issue, or if they're dealing with a process issue that we can help smooth for them to enable them to comply. Those digital checks also ensure we comply with something that I'm sure people find it very boring when I moan on about this, but it's about document storage and retention policies, which often go overlooked. But for me, good document storage and retention, especially when you've got digital, they're usually in the cloud, we can keep them for a long time. It reduces business risk. So if and when something goes wrong, we actually have the evidence of what we did, when and why, and we can keep that for a good amount of time, so that if we had to produce it, we can. Often with paper, it's really, really difficult to find something. So again, quick summary, it's all about making it easy for our colleagues to comply. To you, Sam.
Thank you. So we've got the quality conscience, we've got people thinking about it, we've looked at a structured approach of how we're going to do that, and then it's like, well, how do you then as individuals become a great quality facilitator? So not just somebody that facilitates events, but a real person that facilitates quality and enables that to happen. So one of the things that I really like is this about that you can do the plan, do, check, act stuff. So PDCA that people know and love. But this is really about how do you glean that knowledge and information. A simple trick is if you ask people when they have their best ideas, They normally say when I'm out walking the dog, when I'm in the bath, when I'm in the car on the way home from work. They never say, I have my best ideas when somebody gets me in a room with lots of people that I do or don't know and asks me to write down on a post-it note what I think the solution to the problem is that they're trying to solve. Okay. However, that is our approach most of the time is let's get everyone together and ask them. You know, a simple trick, if you put the question that you want answering in the meeting invite and say, please come prepared with some ideas, you're giving people a bit of time because people do things and approach things and learn and want to deal with things differently. But it's really important that we gather that knowledge. So one of the great strengths is knowledge. Knowledge is there to be shared. It's there for understanding. You can build improvements on it. So take the time, get the knowledge, get the feedback, get the learning, put the time in, which then enables you to create the environment that it's okay to try things. It's okay to get the feedback. It's okay to have different approaches. And by getting people together and getting that information, what you get out of this process is you get understanding. You get feedback. I've got a new boss at the minute, and apparently feedback are presents. So she gives me presents quite often. And I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. Some people take feedback as, but actually feedback is always a gift or a present, whichever way you want it, whichever language you want to, is. And you get learning as a group, as a team, as an individual. You get the benefits out of it, and then you're creating a culture for continuous improvement. And actually, what you can do is you can reflect back sometimes on the lessons learned. Now, anybody that's been in a company for a long time, like me, there's going to be people that come along and say, I've had this really good idea. And the first time I ever sit there and go, well, we've done all that before, that's not going to work. I need to go and get a new job. Because what we should be doing is saying, fantastic. Previously, we've tried this. It was at this time. This is what the processes were like. This is what people were, what the working environment was like. And they can build on that. Because actually, an idea that we had 10 years ago may have seemed completely impossible, but now is absolutely possible and probable that it would be successful. So we have to build that environment to enable people to learn and enable that facilitation as we go through. So if you do nothing else, create the space and the time for people to go and learn from each other and share that knowledge.
I think that's really important, isn't it? Because quite often, as you say, those items might have been considered years ago. Maybe we didn't have the technology at that point to do something. So I think for me, we talk about quality being the responsibility of everyone, but you could argue then that it's a responsibility of no one. So I think it's important for quality professionals to share that knowledge, to provide the training in the quality tools, such as root cause analysis, so that we can fix the problem, not the symptoms. But again, spread that knowledge, help people in those positions who would come to us with a potential solution to a problem. If they've got some training and some background in this, then they will be more clear on maybe what the problem is and potentially what the solutions are. As Sarah says, when you get in a room, that's the time that you start talking through what could potentially be the solution to a problem. Training, I think, in those tools really helps mature the quality culture, and then back to the quality conscience, it starts to become second nature, like the safety culture. But we can't do that if people are just constantly on the hamster wheel, always doing what they've always done because they haven't got time to get off. And that's really the diagrams on the slide are ones that I use regularly with my internal comms, just to prompt people, not always the people on the front line doing the work, sometimes it's the managers, is to say, I know we're busy, I know we're really tied up doing the day job every day, but sometimes we need to make the time to stop, to have those discussions, as Sarah said, in the room, but also just to look at who is doing the job. Do they have any potential solutions for the issues? Because they probably do. Usually it's the people doing the work that have some of the best solutions or possible solutions, but talking those through as a big group often will point out whether it is or it isn't a good solution, or whether it just needs tweaking. But getting the business to stop, I bet everybody on this call works in a business where you feel like everybody's on that hamster wheel and nobody's got time to stop, to improve, but they're all very good at complaining about all of the issues. So I think for us as quality professionals, this is where it comes in for us to be a good facilitator, to spot those opportunities, to get the business to stop, to influence our leaders, to empower their people to stop, to look at what the issue is, to take action, identify and implement those improvements, and then enable them to move forward in a bit more of a lean and efficient manner until they come to the next issue that needs solving. We'll talk about that kind of journey in the next slides. But really, this is all about improving our customer satisfaction and our financial results, because let's face it, companies are not there, they're not charities, they're there to make a return. But really, we're in business because we have customers who are prepared to pay whatever it is that we are producing for them. So I think as quality facilitators, it really is up to us to translate quality using everyday situations that people can relate to, demonstrate that we're there to help. So, sometimes we really do have to roll our sleeves up and get stuck in and demonstrate that we're not there just to point out people are doing it wrong, but to help and facilitate them to identify the solutions, to enable them to do it right, and to do it right first time. We need to make it easy for them. We need to error-proof where we can, provide the training in all those great quality tools, which in turn will help build that culture that we've talked about, and that quality conscience. And that in turn will help everyone to feel responsibility for quality, and help mature that quality conscience, so that even when no one is looking, they know what is the right thing to do. So.
Awesome. Someone's always watching. Someone's always watching somewhere. But that's good. So now we've got the facilitation bit in, and we're being the quality conscience, and we're showing people how we need to go with things and how they need to approach it. But then what we've got to do it. So we've done the talk. We now need to do the walk piece. So we really need to act as that quality role model. So sometimes people struggle with the word role model, and it's like, oh, what does that really mean? Don't people put me on a pedestal? No, you just have to do what you said you were going to do. Okay. So you're asking other people to learn new skills, share their knowledge, share their information, look at it from a holistic or value stream point of view. Well, then you need to do the same. And this will grow as you develop as an individual as well. So you need to develop your skills. Absolutely you do. So whether it's going on training, whether it's building your influencing skills, you've also then got to develop your own style. So everybody has a different way of doing things, from a learning point of view, from a sharing point of view. Find the sweet spot for you, and become the best version of yourself with that style and that way of doing things. If you build nothing else, build your network. And whatever you do, don't forget the people as you progress through your career, because it really helps you. And then when you come to board things presentations, you can ring somebody in Abu Dhabi and say, can you help me with this, please, mate? Yep. So that's really good. So build that network internally, externally, as you go through those things. Keep in contact with people. There'll be experts as you go through and maybe facilitate events. You'll spot the next person who could be doing your job, who's got some really good ideas. Build them as well as you build yourself. Build your own confidence. Build your confidence and experimentation. In Dr. Pepper, what's the worst that can happen? Yeah, have a go. Yeah, make sure that you are demonstrating that you are growing as well. So make sure you've got an individual development plan or the equivalent of that, because you'll expect your teams to have a development plan and expect them to be the best that they can be, but expect that of yourself as well. So have a plan. What are you going to do? It doesn't matter if you don't want to go up the next career ladder, but how are you going to impart that information, that knowledge, and then keep to develop yourself? So we did something at Rolls-Royce called high performance culture, which is a copyright from Sendelaney, and I really love this concept. They call it a high performance culture concept. What shadow do you cast? what do people think of when they think about you? Yeah. Do they think of somebody that does what they said they're going to do? Somebody that acts as that role model? Somebody that they can approach when they've got an issue that they might want some help? Or are you, as Abigail said, the person that sits there with the pen behind their ear going, that's going to cost you. I wouldn't have done it like this, you know? And sometimes that's not really very helpful. So what we've got to do is be the person that, if we could get into teams at a proactive stage of problem solving, that would be great, rather than when it's already gone wrong and they ring quality and improvement and say, we've got an issue, can you help me? Yeah. Get the data to prevent reoccurrence. Act as that person, as that voice of saying, how do we capture that? How do we build on what we've learned? Otherwise, we're just reacting all the time to NCRs, audit findings, failures, etc., customer dissatisfaction. How do we get a proactive approach on that stuff? So that's for me is the making sure you're taking ownership of it yourself and driving yourself to the expectations that you have on other people.
I love that bit. And just carrying on from that, the Delaney. So that high performance culture was one of the best things I experienced at Rolls-Royce. And there's some, you've obviously remembered that one about casting, what shadow do you cast? The one I always remember is assume good intent. And I think that serves as just as well for my slide, actually, because people generally don't come to work to do a bad job. So if they do have an idea, you should assume that they've done it with the right motives in mind and that they're trying to improve things. So, you know, for us, acting as a quality role model doesn't mean that we'll always get it right every time. And I think it's really important for us to demonstrate that we can own up when we make a mistake or when we've tried something and it hasn't worked. I'm kind of fortunate where I am in some ways that, you know, there aren't any unions here. So we can just put improvements in place. It does allow me sometimes to do what I call quick and dirty improvements. And that demonstrates for me as well as other people that you can try something, you can check it and review it. You can see, does it need any tweaks? And then finally, you can decide whether you bin that and try something else, or whether you just need a few more tweaks to improve it, which is kind of what the visual on the left is indicating, which is very much like the plan, do, check, act cycle for those of you who are observant. But for me, it's about trying something out, especially if somebody else has suggested it. We want to build that culture. We want people to feel that they can come to us as quality role models, as quality professionals, to suggest something. Because as Sarah said, if we turn them away or if we act as if we've tried that before, that's, you know, that's a silly suggestion, they're never going to come to us again. They're never going to think for themselves what could they do to improve the level of quality. So we want to encourage that. To do that, we need to provide them with an environment where they can fail safely. And I think that's really important, enabling people to feel that they have a safe environment where they can fail. That's where innovation comes from. That's where all the learning comes from. And the little staircase there, sometimes, you know, you have to go backwards before you can go forwards. And just even though you're going forwards on a really good, pace, sometimes you might have to go backwards and redo that thinking piece. But again, for me, that's where the greatest learning comes from. If you review it, it works great. If it doesn't, let's learn from it and see what we can do next time. Sarah said that she has OCD. I have really, really high standards of like kind of on the, you know, perfectionist. I view myself as a pragmatic perfectionist these days. I would still encourage people to have high standards, but encourage that innovation and really put that safe environment to fail in place to make people feel that they can come forward with suggestions. Listen to their needs. So don't give them or work with them to find a solution that looks pretty. We actually need a solution that fits people's needs. I tend to favour simple approaches, even if they look a bit noddy. Usually that I'd prefer them to be digital, but again, making compliance easy, ensuring that we have good record keeping, but keep that simple approach in mind. If we make it complicated, we make it highly likely that it will fail, that people won't follow it because it's too difficult. So simple is always good for me. Be professional, but also a people person. I think, we talk a lot about being authentic. I think if people know us, Sarah and I, have worked together for a few years, and we know that we're both, what you see is what you get. I think if people can see that, they know that you're honest, that you're genuine, you're authentic, that you will listen to what they need, they're more likely to work with us. So, some of the best ideas come from those people doing the work. If you're so far away from them that, we used to talk years ago about an ivory tower, people in quality sitting in an ivory tower, back to the floor, get out to where people work. For us, it's in the field. For Sarah, it's probably in production environment. Go to the people that are doing the work and listen to what they need, listen to their suggestions, and then be that quality role model. Stand with them as we facilitate, on the previous slide, facilitate those that innovation, those ideas, so that we can test and see if we can get those improvements. And then what I tried to do, I'm sure Sarah does, is give credit to the people that have suggested, because then that inspires them to step up again. It makes them feel that they will get noticed, they will get credit for their suggestions, and again brings it all back to that quality conscience, that quality culture. We can all learn from each other, and often that learning comes from somebody who has little or no knowledge of quality, but they do know what they're doing in their job. So I think that's one of the benefits of creating teams from diverse backgrounds and perspectives, and encouraging that environment, that safe environment, is that people are willing to share their ideas.
Awesome, thank you. So that actually concludes our death by PowerPoint pack, whatever. So I think everybody's on mute. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat. If you want us to revisit anything, or you've got any further questions, then now's your time.
We're not able to unmute, Sarah.
Is Lisa still on? She said she might be able to have a look.
I am. I'm still on. Let me allow people's mics and cameras. Bear with me. In the meantime, sorry, once I figure this out, if there are any questions, please do type them in the chat.
Yeah. There's no such thing as a silly question, by the way. We're hopefully creating the environment. Yeah, we're hopefully creating an environment. Yeah. You can feel free.
While anybody's thinking of a question, I will tell a tiny little story of it was when I was at Rolls-Royce working with a master black belt who was one of my best managers to date, and he took me to an area where they were looking for a really technical solution. And I didn't think that I had the technical background to ask a question, so I stayed quiet. And I'm fairly sure he could see the cogs going. And I finally got the courage to ask my question, and then kind of hid under the table. And the brains in the room, many of whom had PhDs, kind of looked as if they were going to waft away my stupid suggestion. And then I saw their cogs going round. And then they stopped and went, actually, that might work. So I think I've proved there very quickly that there's no daft question and there is no daft solution. So speak up no matter what environment you're in. We have a red dot in the Q&A. Does that mean there's a question?
There is a question.
Right. Brilliant. So the question is, what was the best training or course that you have done that centres around quality? Do you want to go, Abigail, and then I'll go, or the other way around?
Okay, so for me, hands down, and it wasn't a short one, it was a master's degree, purely because it had an underpinning organizational development base. So it was really about what makes people tick, why do people do things the way they do it, as well as all the great quality stuff, the Lean Six Sigma, the data analysis. So I had all the basic workings of quality to study, but underpinned by this organizational behavior. So it really helped me understand why people didn't do things the right way and what I needed to do to encourage them. Sarah?
Yeah, and for me, I think so. I went actually on the pilot Greenbelt course from in Rolls-Royce back in the day, and at that point in my career, I was on the shop floor, so no experience whatsoever, not been to university by that point or anything, so no real education around quality tools and techniques. But what's this? And then they started talking about value added and non-value added stuff and right first time, and how lean was about removing the waste to get rid of the non-value added, and quality and the focus on right first time and centering your processes. And I got into CPKs and PPKs, and it was all exciting around Minitab. So I think for me, the first course I went on around quality centric, around how you get those tools, how you measure processes, monitor processes. So I had the insight as to that must do a good job, that must follow your processes to get the stamp approval, because you could, if an aeroplane falls out the sky and we find out it's your fault and you've stamped that one off, that kind of stuff, as in the consequences of non-quality were drilled into me. But how to proactively apply some tools and techniques to make sure that the quality was right in the first place, that was my first real insight, and where my love then for anything lean and improvement and quality related came from. So I think, the Greenbelt course was the first one for me that really kind of ticked the boxes. There is a question in the chat as well, Abigail. So the question is, improvements are analysed only from the customer feedback or surveys. Is there any other areas also? So I think, for me, I'll go with this one, because improvement as a word piqued my interest. Absolutely there is. So you don't have to wait for a customer survey or a customer feedback. Go and proactively ask the question. Where is your value stream map that then asks the question from your point of view? So you can ask about improvement ideas at any point, any time, day or night, any point in the process. You can ask anyone about it. Have a suggestion scheme. Have it that it's always open, that people can do that. Go and ask them at any point. Don't wait for external customer feedback, which is generally the customer satisfaction when it's already too late, because the end result has been delivered to the customer. So think from an internal customer point of view as well.
Yeah, I think like you say, there's multiple ways. Look, we have great things like MS Forms and multiple other ways. I am very passionate about the external customer, and I'd done some external customer surveys, but at the same time did an internal survey, and actually printed out the QR code and put it on everybody's desks, so that if they got stuck in a process, maybe somebody before them had passed something forward that wasn't accurate, they could that person could submit a form and say what process it was or what part of the business it was. And I did stress in all of the training, this is about process, it's not about person. So, and beware, if you are going to say something about another person, they might also say something about you. So that was one way. The other way was, if you're doing value stream mapping or any kind of process mapping, try and map the customer journey alongside. It's actually really difficult to do if you're just doing it with your own team, because you'll often just see it in that little silo. Get your quality professional involved, or your improvement professional, because generally we're pretty good at being objective, because we're not part of that area of the business. So lots of different ways. But yeah, as Sarah says, please don't wait until you get a customer survey, because it's a little bit late then. Vishaka, hello. Thank you for joining. It's important to be a role model, do the right thing, and to follow the process. However, how can we ensure or encourage other colleagues to do the same? Has to be a collective effort from the team and not just one individual. Is there any best practice approach for this? Sarah, what do you think?
So you're absolutely right to make sure that, you know, it's that integrity piece, isn't it? How do we make sure we're doing the right thing when nobody's looking? And how do we get everybody to do the same? So you have to build that. So it's how do you demonstrate that you're doing the right thing all of the time? You're right about the collective effort. So if you think about this slide in terms of how do we get people, oh, not too far, there we go. Get excited. This one. So the power is in the thinking. Yeah. So how do you get people to share those ideas and get those things through? It's really interesting as well the comment that Kim's made about the black box thinking. So Matt Syed, absolutely, I would recommend it that you read some of his books. We were really fortunate last year that he came and talked at one of the senior leadership conferences. So it was really good. But they tie in together of how do you get the most out of people. So you've got that influence of yourself, but then how do you grow that and it becomes infectious? Yeah. So I don't think necessarily there's a best practice. Try the thing that works for you in your area because it will be absolutely unique for whatever problem or whichever part of the world or business that you're in.
And I think it comes back to, you know, and it is a bit luck of the draw. If you've got a quality or an improvement person who has done and thought and led in the way that we described on the slides, you will know that you can go to them at any time and they will roll their sleeves up and they will help you. Contrarily, is that a word? It is now. I have worked with people who have been some of the best minds, the black belts or the master black belts, who really struggle with taking the academic and then putting in that mix people, process, systems that aren't always great, and then coming out with the reality. And they've struggled to kind of get any alignment between those two. I think you have to, it's good to have that learning behind you, but you have to put in that mix people who don't, maybe they're not competent or don't like their job, processes that are not really fit for purpose, and no system is perfect. You put all of that in and then you make it the best that it can be. It is never going to be perfect, and you need a really good quality or improvement professional to help you get there. And then hopefully over time you will build that culture and people will feel safe that they can try something and it will fail, but you will help to keep innovating.
I think it's a really good point there about having maybe some independent facilitation. So often we expect the owners of the process or the workers of the process to be able to facilitate some improvement ideas. But actually sometimes that independent person to listen and then replay back. So this is what you've said, this is what I've heard. Let me understand that. And like Abigail says, to be able to ask almost the daft questions at the beginning. What do you mean by that? So let me understand. It goes from there to there and back to there and back to there. And really, why does it do that? Whereas if you're living and breathing it all the time, you're already in the muck and bullets, as it were. So what you need sometimes is that maybe that independent facilitation. So maybe that's a good starting place for if you're going to do something different. Get a fresh pair of eyes looking at the problem.
Get somebody in from another team. If you're really brave, get somebody in from another team that thinks what you're passing to them is not right. And then have that honest, open conversation about, okay, we'll view it as a value stream. It's not you versus us. View it as an end-to-end. What is the customer getting and how can we work better together? Quite often, and I've had a big group in a room before who were part of, I would say, 50 to 70% of a business, who did not realize what they were passing forward was so wrong. Their intent wasn't wrong. It was just that they were so caught in their little silo. They were doing what they were doing and then just chucking it over the wall, and not realizing the issues it was causing. You get them in a room and you discuss that, but you put the focus on solution. Hussein, what are the biggest challenges facing quality professionals today? For me, it's that for a lot of quality professionals, whether it's individual or whether the company that they're working in, don't encourage them to be professional. There are not many people I've come across who have CQI or any other ASQ, any other quality professional membership, in which case they probably don't have CPD and continuous learning. Sarah, what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, so I think there is that there's the functional piece and the professional piece of it. But I actually think sometimes return on investment is the biggest challenge that's facing quality, because people are trying to cut costs out of their business any way they can. And sometimes, if we focused on getting the quality right first time, the cost reduction would come for free. So sometimes we don't always understand the implication from a quality point of view or a longevity of a product point of view, the impact that cost reduction is having on the life cycle of a product. So
but don't you think those two things are the two sides of the same coin?
Yeah.
Is that because we're not seen as, if we were HR, a business can't do without HR. If you've got, I don't know, an R&D element of the bit, you can't do without that. I think quality historically, and certainly I learned this when I was doing my degree, quality is often seen as the one to dispense with when you're trying to save money. And as you've just said, that poor cost of quality is costing you a lot of money. It's just that we don't always have the data to prove it. And I think if we did get off that hamster wheel, stop, improve, you would see over time that you would have a good return on investment. It's just that we don't invest that time to stop and improve. I saw the automated survey to digital, which is a good step. How is the role of quality evolving with the rise of new technologies like artificial intelligence and automation with many analysis to help a better decision making? Interesting. What do you think, Sarah?
So I think it's that bit, isn't it? So it's artificial intelligence. So making sure that we've got good, accurate data that make data-driven stuff. So it was quite interesting. We had one of our team away days before Christmas, and we gave each other, one of the tasks that I gave them, that you have to write each other a Christmas card and you have to put some good, some feedback in it of about that individual, because sometimes it's really difficult for people to say it face to face, but if you write it down and then you can keep it, can't you, as well? And one of the guys in my team did it, but then also spoke and did it through Chat GPT. So it came out completely differently, but the same, if that makes sense. So I think there's power in automation, absolutely, in terms of getting information from products, information from machines, information from people, and making sure we use that to the best of our ability. But how do we make sure that we're building in good quality? Making sure that we're building in the right information, because if you automate something that doesn't work, it still won't work.
Exactly.
So how do you build in the right points? Yeah,
really good point. I've just answered one in the chat, but there's another one here. How do you get across the improvements that can't be easily displayed as a clear value add, such as investment in culture? So look, you're talking to a real people person here, and I know Sarah is as well. For me, I've had lots of input into award ceremonies, and my leadership here is very good at providing awards at quarterly town halls, etc. Those nominations come from me because I've spotted something, or somebody's done something that was probably under the radar but resulted in a real improvement, or just where you can encourage people, give them an award, celebrate the success, no matter how small it is, because that does build the culture. And I've been here a couple of years and I had some great feedback, particularly from people in the field. And I think that's sometimes more valuable, is because we've made a difference to their working day. And they've seen the increase in quality. They've seen the, a lot more collaboration. So when they've done something and they tell me, because they're quite pleased about it, we celebrate it, give them awards, give them certificates. They're just little things, but they're all things that will help build that culture.
And I think the other bit is you won't get the improvement if you don't get the culture. You might fluke one, you won't get a second or a third or a fourth, or build that culture of continuous improvement if you don't invest in the culture. So it doesn't necessarily have to be money. It can be time. It can be reassurance. It can be that thank you. It can be the certificate, the little card, the nudge. We have a system at Rolls-Royce called Kudos where you can send it electronically and it goes on the system on the engine room for everybody in the company to see. But actually also the individual's boss gets an email and then it's recorded in the system as well. So it's how do you build that? But because if you don't invest in the culture, so it's almost what happens if we don't? Well, if we don't, we'll get what we've got now, which is nobody coming forward with any ideas or nobody improving. You try one way, you do it collaboratively, and then it builds on, oh, I remember so-and-so knows this bit. So I think it's more of a, how do you if you don't invest in the culture, you won't be able to get any of the other improvements over either.
Yeah, and I think some people who have not wanted to step up or say anything because they've lacked confidence, when they do get that little bit of recognition, it really does make a difference to them. I put things on Yammer, so internal comms, I put things on LinkedIn, and I think when people see that, it really makes them think, wow, I was listened to. Sometimes people just want to be listened to, right? And then you get them involved the next time.
Awesome. So you've answered the question about the master's degree. That's for really people.
Yeah, that was just the one I did, but I just wanted to make the point there. It was in the engineering faculty. Quality and engineering still seem to go together. And I didn't have a technical background, as I'm always saying to Sarah. But I still did that degree there. It was in the engineering faculty. But find something that fits with you. And for me, I was just passionate about quality even before I knew what it was. And look at the modules. For me, the fact that it was organizational behavior underpinning it, I am a closet psychologist. I make no bones about that. So find something that fits with what you would like to do. Lee, hello, Lee. Nice to see you or hear you. What do you want to ask? I'll read it out.
Every time I wanted to ask something, you answered before I finished typing.
Oh, we'd already answered it.
That's just demonstrating our quality role model proactiveness. That's what we'll take that as it. We'll take that one. Brilliant, thanks, Lee. So I think it is that bit, and as you were saying, building on with your people centric. So I'm actually at Quality Live tomorrow in London, and they've got these different sessions, and there's sessions on skills and all different bits. And without realising, the topics that have pinged me are all on culture. So I'm going to be a culture vulture tomorrow. So it's really interesting. Go, and it's okay. Don't ignore the other stuff, but go and do the things that you're passionate about. Because when you do, you build that experience and you build that knowledge, and you're with like-minded people and you build your momentum. So you might be down a bit, build your momentum and then go back again. Be like the hobnob of quality conscience. Don't you again and go and find some like-minded people, join a network, join these sessions, and then get on and go and try again and build it from there. The biggest thing is getting the leadership to change their mindset on us being policemen only. Absolutely, 100%. I concur completely with that bit, and we've actually got lean in our principles now in terms of driving things forward. So yeah, sometimes it takes a long time.
Us being facilitators and role models is what makes the difference. If you get into it, any kind of quality role, you've got to make the first difference to get the leadership on board. That's your biggest task, is to get the leadership on board before you even start to look at culture of the rest of the organization. Because once you've got the leadership to the table and you've evidenced some value, they will be behind everything else you do. And that's a big role to take.
Awesome. So we're at 1 minute to 1. So if anybody's got anything burning that they want to ask, then
yeah.
If not, then you're right about the silo, and you've got to break down the silo. We've had it before between quality and improvement. You're right. It is fun. It is fun, and you've got to build that. Be the change you want to see. So start with you. then your team, then whatever, and then the business. And as you
Huge
drive through
bulldozers
there,
around. Love it.
yeah, you can do that. Awesome. So from Derby and Notts branch, thanks ever so much, Abigail, for joining us and being a great co-host. It's always fantastic to hear somebody else speaking as well. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Thanks for asking me. I really appreciate it. Exactly, Vishaka, one step at a time.
That,
as I
Danny,
didn't even read it out on my last slide. Quality is a journey, not a destination. Sorry, who's got a hand up?
Danny had a hand up, but I'm not sure if it was a different reaction or there was a question.
Hi, Sarah. Yeah, no,
hey,
it wasn't.
Danny.
How are you doing? No, it was. I pressed that button instead of the react button. Do excuse me.
That's all right.
Another example that we do make mistakes.
There's no such thing as a mistake, because now that's enabled a conversation, hasn't it? That's enabled a conversation. Fantastic.
No, brilliant session. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and congratulations on the new job. Welcome.
Yeah,
welcome aboard the Rolls-Royce team.
Oh, congratulations.
Couldn't keep away.
Well, it's like a drug, isn't it?
Thanks
there we go.
being...
Fantastic. Thanks ever so much, and thanks Lisa for being our CQI person in the background. You will get some feedback, a feedback form. Please fill it in, because we only learn and grow with the gifts of feedback. Remember that. All right, have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Abigail. It was a great presentation. I learned a lot myself.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
I think we just leave now. Do we just leave?
Yeah, you can just
when we can stay and have a chat, we'll do we can do some direct
How
feedback.
Did that go? How can we improve it next time?
Yeah.
Do we need to be a member to get access to the slides? Somebody has put. Yes, you do.
Yes.
Apparently.
I think so.
Yeah, usually attached onto the recording.
Yeah.
But we can send slides to the attendees. I don't see any reason why we can't just email a PDF version if you're happy to send that.
Yeah. So we worked really hard, didn't we, Abigail, with the slides to remove any reference to Rolls-Royce or Otis, because we knew they'd get shared at the end. So that's why we've done some.
But if anybody spots anything that still needs to come out, please let me know.
Yeah.
We'll do. I'll let Chanel know to send them to the attendees.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, perhaps if it goes as PDF, it would be better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can add some people here that we can do that to. There we go. I can remove. It's fantastic, isn't it? I mean, how you can just chuck them out. You can just chuck them out. You can just chuck them out. Yeah. So when on the people bit, you can just remove as the people. You can remove somebody from a meeting, because they're obviously.
Somebody's going to have to edit that with all my waffling, but.
I know, it's really good. It was right at the beginning when we were talking about pink and all sorts, weren't we? So we're all good.
Even during the slides, because when you say something that I remember from Rolls-Royce, it just sets me off.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's like that bit, isn't it? I try really hard not to practice. So you know what's on the slide because you've created it, but try really hard not to write a script, because if I go off, if I then don't say something, it makes me all flustered. So I feel like I'm a waffler as well, because I just go.
But it came across really natural, and it didn't seem like everything you did say was it didn't seem like waffle basically. So it seemed like a linear train of thought.
I think that's why we do. Both of us, we talk about this all the time. We both go off piste because it's natural. So you have things on your slide that you know you want to say because you needed to prepare, and then when you I just spark off something Sarah says, and then you realize that you've not said half of what you wanted to say, because it is everything comes from inside for me. So if it's something that you enjoy and you really believe, and I love the people side of quality, and that I think is what it becomes infectious with other people.
Yeah, it does come across. Your passion does make it more interesting and more just appealing to hear what you have to say about different matters. And what was interesting for me was because we're doing internal audits within our teams, and we also kind of started having other people from other teams come in and look at our processes and suggest different ideas. So I took that from this presentation when you're talking about, get other teams involved. I thought, yeah, that's such a good idea because it's worked so well for us within our teams to get a different perspective.
And you've got to be really brave with that, because you might hear things that you don't want to hear. But that's where the improvements come from. And I think that's, like when I created the internal feedback survey, I made everybody very clear that this is about process. It is not about picking fault with Sarah and what she's done.
There's too many to go up.
If she's passed something forward to me, no, we're not in the same organisation, but if she's passed something forward to me, and every time she does the same thing wrong, I'm not criticising her, I'm criticising the process and how can we make it better. And I think so long as you set your ground rules and everybody is very clear that that's what it's about, it needs to be a very safe space where you...
It's really interesting. So we're just on the cusp. So we've just had a massive reorganisation inside our company, and there are a couple of individuals whose behaviours have changed dramatically in 2 weeks. Okay, so where the door's been shut, the door is magically opened, and yes, we want some improvement help, and yes, we want this, and yes, we want that. So I'm erring caution with my boss and their boss, going, I'm worried that the door's going to open and it's going to go to a trap door. Okay, so we're having to do as a team exactly your point, Abigail. They've asked us to come and do some go look sees, and they've asked us to help them get better at what they're doing and analyse stuff. But I can guarantee you, if I walk in and go, well, you're not asking the right coaching questions, your metrics aren't right, your meeting structure's horrendous, the door's just going to slam back in my face. So we've got to really get a constructive go look see set of questions in, and we might go for the first week and not have a pen and a piece of paper at all in the session and just listen. So it's really interesting, the change. Even when people ask for help, you've just got to be mindful of what help they really want, because they might know some of the stuff that you're already on about.
And there's a couple of things I do when you do that is, and I know we all do it, is put up a car park on your flip chart, so where people can log things that you're not going to discuss in that environment because you've got a scope. And if you have scope creep, you'll never achieve anything. But the second thing is, do what you said you were going to do. So if you've asked people to register their ideas on a car park that you will revisit at a future session, you better make sure you do it, because people will remember that. Otherwise, they'll say, well, nobody ever did that. Nobody ever looked at that I suggested, so I'm not going to bother saying anything again. It's all about behaviours, and it's all about making sure that people have confidence that you will say what you will do, what you say.
That's absolutely right. Super duper. Right, so we could stand down, I think, for another year, Abigail, before I come and say, I know someone who's perfect to come and talk about this.
What I can do is I can always nominate somebody else, because like Natalie, South Africa, she doesn't get asked to do any of these things. I'm sure she would love to do it, and you will get a whole different view.
That'd be great
from somebody in a different country.
That's how that worked when they were like, so I always get I was never going to get away from doing the improvement one, was I? Ever in a million years. ever. So we did that one. Then there's like, anybody think of anyone from leadership? And I was like, you need somebody. So you're right. So maybe that's what we do. And that's that networking piece What's
quality like in South Africa? Maybe we do a country version.
Yeah.
What's quality like in your country? Because CQI is supposed to be global, right?
Yeah.
Even though I will drop it in again that I don't get any CPD.
Get a branch in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, I know.
Do you know, there's been so many members in my time in this team that have asked about setting up a network in Abu Dhabi, and because we have a lot.
Let's not limit it to Abu Dhabi. We need the Middle East, because I'm in Dubai. My friend's in South Africa. Hussein is in Abu Dhabi, and it was Hussein and I that put something together with, I can't remember the guy's name in the CQI.
James?
No.
Ian.
Yeah, it was Ian. And we didn't really get very far. I think he tried, but we didn't really get very far. And it's great, that I've got people like Sarah in my network who will invite me to do this, but I'm struggling to fill my CPD because there's any event on the CQI is usually at 6 o'clock in the evening, which is 9 o'clock for me. And if I've been on, and I'm EMEA, so I have 24 countries to meet with for work. When my last meeting finishes at 8 p.m. in the evening, the last thing I want to do is dial in to a CQI event at 9 p.m. that will finish at 10 p.m. So yeah, it would be great if we had something in our neck of the woods.
Yeah, I think going forward, we want to move towards just making things a bit easier to produce, making the form of the process of establishing a network a bit smoother, just so we can get members to meet, to know who they are within, to know each other within any particular region, and just to connect. So
well,
I think
I suggested, you have your mentoring page online on the CQI. I'm on there. If you followed the same principle and just had a networking page, then people give permission for their details to be shared in the same way that you do as a mentor, then that means I could look on a register of people in my area and I could connect myself. But at the minute, I don't know who they are. And we did an event last year and had several people from the Middle East join. But unless they give me their details, I can't contact them.
You know what? I haven't thought of that, because we were thinking, how do we coordinate that?
That's the way to do it. Just set a page. You've already done it with mentoring. Set a networking page where people, if people put their information on there, they accept that they're prepared to share. Then I can go on it and find people in my time zone, and we could do an event, and then I know who to send the invite to. That was the suggestion I made to the CQI, but let's see if you can.
Did you make that in a membership survey, or was it in a volunteer?
No, with Ian directly.
I see. Ian,
because it's all about people giving permission to share their details, but we do that via the mentoring page. So I think a network where you give permission to share your details would be the easiest thing. Because yes, they made the point that I can still access the videos of these events, but if I do that, I can't interact, I can't collaborate, because the event's already been and gone.
we were actually thinking of using the Quality Learning Hub for that interaction, that post-event interaction, and housing events on the Quality Learning Hub, but because it has a chat function that you can then continue on conversation following the webinar and make those connections. But we're finding that it doesn't really speak to Teams and Zoom, the platform that we have. So we already have the mentoring platform. I just can't believe we didn't think of it, because it has the structure that you're talking about.
I suggested it last year, and I kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, but nobody took it. So I just said, look, that would be the easiest thing for me. So anyway, I'll leave that one with you.
I'm not doing any more of these, because my Teams is lighting up with are you in Morlane? Can you help me with this quality problem? So Danny's already, can you help me with this? No, see a quality professional, not me.
Awesome.
Right, so Lisa, I'll see you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. And Abigail, I'll see you soon, and I'll make sure that the dogs are around, because I know that's a stipulation of calls with Abigail. She needs a chihuahua fix.
I need to see the chihuahua. Thanks very much, Sarah. Thanks for asking me.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care. Bye.
You've got my details if you want to progress this idea.
Thank you, Abby. That's a really solid idea. I'll check with Ian what happened there, but thanks for that.
Enjoy your day tomorrow. I wish I was there.
All right. See you later. Take care. Bye. 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 Bye.